Welcome to Growing Your Team, a podcast designed for small business owners seeking to grow their company with the help of employees and contractors. Your time is limited, which means growing and leveraging teams is essential for business success. The Growing Your Team podcast is the place to learn tips and techniques designed to help you know when it's the right time to hire, how to select perfect fit team members, and how to maximize productivity while creating a positive work environment. Drawing from her 10-plus years of leadership and hiring experience, here is your host, Jamie Van Kuyk.
Hello, Jamie Van Kuyk here, and welcome back to the Growing Your Team podcast. Today, we are talking about interviews and the one type of interview question that should take up a majority of the time you spend interviewing candidates. Before we dive in to the particular interview question type, let's talk about why interviews are important, right? You know that you have to conduct interviews in order to find the person that you want to hire, in order to make your selection. But I think a lot of us fail to really understand why interviews are important, why this is a step we have to go through, even though we always don't like conducting them, and even though it's a nerve-wracking experience for the candidates. And the reason why interviews are important, the reason why you have to do them, is they are a way for you to uncover the information that is needed to determine if a candidate can do the job. And that's the important part of here, is you are determining if a candidate can do the job. The number one thing isn't to determine if you like the candidate, if they are a good fit. The number one thing you need to determine is if they can do the job. Those other things are then secondary. Of course, you need to hire someone who's good for your culture. Of course, you need to hire someone that you actually want to work with and that you get along with. But if someone can't do the job, they shouldn't be measured on those criteria. So first you need to determine, can someone do the job? Then you can determine, is it someone you want to work with? And the way you structure your interview is going to help you determine, can the person do the job? Because if someone can't do the job, they are going to take a lot of your time. Now, this doesn't mean you have to hire that amazing expert, the top of the field that's going to cost you a lot of money. Maybe the person you're going to hire is that person who is a little more junior in the role and has room for growth and learning and doesn't know everything yet. But if that's what you want, you need to know how to determine, can they get from the knowledge they have today to where you need them to be in order to be successful? Or if you want that more senior person, do they actually have the knowledge, skill, and experience to be that senior person? Not just they have years of experience listed on their resume, but can they actually do the job? And there's one type of interview question that's going to help you determine this. And that type of interview question is what is called behavioral interview questions. So these are questions that help you uncover what a candidate did in the past in particular situations, where then you can take that information to determine how they will potentially act in the future when similar situations occur within your company. The reason why these are good questions is because they make the candidate give you factual examples of what they did. You are asking for specific scenarios, and you go into the detail for most of these questions, so you're gathering more information. When you don't ask behavioral interview questions that ask about specific scenarios, what typically ends up happening is you ask hypothetical questions. These are questions where you go, what would you do? And when you ask those hypothetical questions, those what would you do? How would you react? What does, for example, customer service mean to you? You're asking pretty much for people to tell you a hypothetical story. You're looking for people to pull the most amazing story out of the air to impress you. Well, guess what? A lot of people can tell you what they think they would do, but it doesn't mean they actually would do that. It doesn't mean that if they were put in that scenario, that that's how they would think, that that's how they would react, that what they would do actually matches the skills that they have. So you need to dig into what they already know. what they've already done. What shows you from their past that they are capable? And that's what behavioral interview questions are. And I know you're probably still saying, I'm not quite sure what a behavioral interview question is yet, but all you know is it's not a hypothetical question. So let's give a few examples of what behavioral interview questions are. So, like I've been mentioning, these are questions where you uncover things that have happened in the past. Their actual performance, their actual behavior, their actual ability to show you if they have a certain skill set, quality, behavior, or whatever it is you're looking for what it is that's important. So you frame your questions like this. Instead of saying, what would you do? You say, tell me about a time when. Give me an example of. So you ask the candidate to specifically tell you about their past behavior. So let's look at customer service for an example. A bad question, a question you don't want to ask, a question that would be a waste of your time would be, tell me what you would do if a client came to you upset. When asked this question, any candidate is going to come up with this beautiful story about how they uncovered what the customer needed by listening to them, and then they made the customer's needs whole, and the customer walked away happy. And it's that wonderful story, but guess what? That's not always reality. So when you flip it and say, tell me about a time when a customer came to you upset, what was the situation and what were the results of your actions? Now the candidate really has to think about a time where they were dealing with an upset customer, where they helped an upset customer move forward through the scenario. They have to think about maybe what went wrong, what went right, what would they do differently. One of the beauties about behavioral interview questions, and I was actually having a conversation with someone before about this, is they say, well, one of the reasons why the hypothetical questions don't work is you can have storytellers. So can't you have storytellers with behavioral interview questions too? Because people will prepare, people will come up with scenarios that never really happened. And the trick is you dig deeper. So someone will start telling you about a scenario and you ask follow-up questions. Tell me more about that. Well, what happened when the customer said that? Well, what made the customer go from A to B? And you can ask those follow-up questions to dig deeper into that scenario to learn more about it. Some candidates will tell you the who, what, where, when, how right off the bat, and other candidates you have to have follow-up questions. When I work with my clients and I create them their interview plan, I outline which behavioral interview questions to ask. And we come up with the behavioral interview questions to ask for that strategy based on what is important for the job. So we're not going to ask customer service questions for someone who's never going to interact with the external customer. Maybe we're going to ask project management questions instead. Or we're going to ask if they are going to be in a leadership positions about managing a team, about an incident when a team member was upset, about a conflict between a team member. So we're going to pick the questions based on what is important for that role. When we pick those questions, there's certain ones that I will put exactly what to ask for the follow-up question. So this is if a candidate did not answer this in their initial response, this is the question you ask next to dive deeper. Some of these things where we know what we want to uncover, and we know that not everyone's going to think the same as us. You have candidates that they're nervous, they're trying to think of a good scenario, they're trying to give you everything they want, and they might not give you everything that they want because they're from a different point of view. So what questions should we ask as a follow-up question to dig deeper if we need it, to uncover the information if we need it? Or in some cases, to catch a candidate in a lie if they're making up a scenario that never really happened. So behavioral interview questions are super important to uncover what is needed to determine if a candidate is qualified. When you go and interview candidates, you're not always going to be interviewing someone who did the exact position before. Because chances are there's no company out there that's doing things exactly your way, with the exact same products, with the exact same customers, and the exact same experience. And depending on the level of team member you're hiring, whether it's a high expert or more junior role, might mean that someone is coming from a completely different backgrounds but has all the qualities that you need. So the positions don't look exactly the same. So this is why it's really important to uncover, can a candidate do the job? Because what you're looking at on a resume isn't always the full picture. Yes, maybe they did the certain skill set that you need, but can they actually do it on a level that you desire for your position? You need to dig in to uncover what their experience is. You need to dig in to see what their qualities are. And behavioral interview questions is what's going to help you get there. So, the most important thing to remember from this episode is when you create the list of questions that you want to ask of the candidates that come in to interview for you, behavioral interview questions need to be on the list. And in most cases, I would say 99.99% of the cases, they are going to be the questions that are going to take up the majority of your interview. These are the questions that you really need to spend time on, dig into to determine if a candidate is qualified, that if a candidate can do a job. If you are not spending a majority of your time on these questions, you are more likely to get a candidate who's going to come in and disappoint you with their performance. They might be a great person, they might have a great personality, they might mesh well with your culture, but if they cannot do the job, if they do not have the background, the skill set, the qualities to show you that they currently can do the job, or they can easily learn and transition to do the job that you need them to do, they're going to be a waste of your time to hire. You need to focus on bringing in the candidates and bringing in the new hires that are going to move your business forward. And behavioral interview questions is one of the top ways to make sure you're getting the right people on your team. The team members who are going to save you time and earn you more revenue so you can keep moving your business forward, scale the way you dream, and reach your business goals. And that wraps up this episode of the Growing Your Team podcast. Is lack of time holding you back from scaling your business? Do you feel like every day there seems to be more work to do than you have time to dedicate? Between client work, running the business, marketing your business, and all the other back-end admin tasks on your plate, it feels like you're in a constant juggling act where balls are starting to fall or you fear that they will soon. You're reaching your capacity, and you know that you cannot keep working like this. Maybe you're dreaming of the days where you can focus on your zone of genius instead of being stuck doing all the things in your business. And maybe you long for working fewer hours, but still being able to grow your revenue and your take-home pay. You might be thinking that long hours and being overworked is just a part of running a business. But when you're feeling this way in your business, typically it's actually a sign that you need to hire help. Of course, hiring any new team member is a big step. And you most likely have questions like, is it the right time to hire someone? What exactly would this new team member do for me? And is hiring even worth the cost? And all these questions are normal. You're not abnormal for having these questions that you want answers to before you move forward with hiring a team member. That is why during the month of May, I am offering Preparing to Hire sessions, where we will dig into your business, what's actually going on, and determine if it's the right time for your business to hire a team member. What tasks you need to get off your plates to give you back the time you need and produce the best financial ROI. We'll also look into the roles and responsibilities of the new team member so you can be clear and confident on who to hire. These are just some of the things we can dig into during a Preparing to Hire session. So for the month of May, you can book a Preparing to Hire session where we will dig in to determine if it's the right time to hire and what that position should look like. We will help you move forward so you can make the right hiring decisions for your business instead of holding back if hiring is the right thing for you or moving forward with the wrong team member who's going to drag your business down instead of lift it up and move it forward. Once again, these sessions are currently only being offered during the month of May. So if you want one of these preparing to hire sessions, act today. Go to jamievc.com/preparing-to-hire and book your session. And that link will be in the show notes. Remember, these sessions are only being offered in the month of May. So if you want one of these sessions, make sure you go and book today.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Growing Your Team with your host, Jamie Van Kuyk. Be sure to subscribe and head on over to growingyourteam.com to connect, access the show notes, and discover more ways to hire and leverage your perfect fit team.